Okay, so I've got my plan and these two elevations starting to come together, and that's enough for me to start to now set up my page layouts for printing. Before I get too far with that though, I'll just remind you about the notes that you've got for this. So in Moodle, oops, where are we? This one? Okay, so in resources, if you scroll down there, you'll see in this AutoCAD commands folder, it's got those 3 PDF files, which are all about the things I'm going to go through now, setting up layouts, and then working with paper space and model space. They're the main concepts. So again here we've got the model tab open. So down the bottom left, you'll always have a model tab in the bottom left corner, and then you generally will have layout 1 and layout 2 as the default page setups. And so I've just clicked on layout 1 obviously, and I've already done some work there. So I'm just going to delete one of those viewports and just set it up so that it looks like what you'll probably get when you first go to one of those layouts. And layout 2, I haven't done anything with that one, so that's how it will look. So generally it'll show everything that's back in the model tab. It basically just does a zoom extents on that. But I've done a bit more since then, so there, that's everything. And onto layout 1, again we've got a page with a viewport. Don't worry too much about how it's set up anyway, because the first thing you're going to do is change that page. And you do that by right-clicking on that layout tab on layout 1, and then go to page setup manager. And it helps, I think, to think about the reasons why you're doing this. Until you know the size of your page, you can't really set up the plans and the other things that you want on that page, because the scale and everything else that you're working with, of course, is dependent on the page size. So we need to know the page size, and that's why we go to page setup manager, and then don't worry about the settings here. Always just click modify, and that then gives you the actual page setup. So if you're familiar with printing with other programs, it's basically the same. In AutoCAD, you need to choose a printer first, and that gives you the selection of page sizes. So if you have Adobe PDF, it's okay, and I always recommend using one of these virtual PDF printers first to set it up. So again, Adobe PDF is okay. But the nice thing about AutoCAD is that they have their own PDF creator. So these are all, if you're wondering, they're virtual printers that make PDF files. And so you've got DWG to PDF, which is the AutoCAD one. And you'll always have that, even if you don't have the Adobe suite. So you need to choose that first, and then that determines the selection of page sizes that you have. So we always work with ISO page sizes, in other words, A1, A2, A3, then A4, and so here we'll try and get everything onto A3. So ISO full bleed A3 is okay, but I'm actually going to use the one that's not full bleed. Just standard ISO A3, there it is. Don't worry too much if you choose the one that's landscape or portrait. The reason they've got 2 versions there is because the sizes are in different order, so you can get 2 landscape or portrait by choosing those 2 different page sizes. But it doesn't really matter in the end, because you can always change it over here as well. Portrait and landscape. So on the top right you'll see the plot style table, and for the time being you can just always choose monochrome. As long as you want all your lines to print black, that works perfectly. And then down the bottom left, again, if you're setting up a page layout, then set the plot area to layout. So then the final thing is the scale, and again, if you're working from a layout, always have that scale on 1:1. But it's a good chance just to double check the units below, and it can catch you out, because if that's on inches and you set it to 1:1, that's actually different to millimetres. The way that they scale in the imperial system is completely different to metric. So if we change it to millimetres, you'll see that it changes that scale, and you have to go and choose 1:1 again. So just watch out for that. It has to be millimetres, and then again 1:1, and that's it. So I'll click OK, and then close, and we should see that the page changes size, but I must have already had it at A3, so I'll go back and just open the page setup manager again and change it to a different page size just so you can see it changing. Right, so that's A2 now, and then I'll go back and change it back to A3. So yeah, so that's really important because until you get that size, you've got no reference to know how big to make your drawings on that sheet. So I've got a viewport there, and that's what shows us the things that we've drawn back in model space, or on the model tab. So you can switch any time between those tabs, of course, and I'm going to just select that viewport and delete it, just so I can show you how to make a new viewport when you need to. So on the Layout tab, use the rectangular button to make new viewports usually. You can make them any shape you like, so if you click on the down arrow you can make them other shapes, but normally rectangular is all you need. So let's choose that, and then really simple, click 2 points, make a new viewport. Then we need to set the things that we want to see in that view for printing. So you've got a couple of options. You can double click to make the viewport active, and then you can double click outside the viewport onto part of the page, or even outside that area, to go back onto the page layout, or what's called paper space. And so you can always keep track of that. Down on the status bar you'll see it says paper at the end if you're in paper space. You can even click on that button and it will change to model space, and that'll just make the viewport active again, and it'll say, of course, model. And if you like using shortcuts, PS, oops, there we go, it's a bit slow, but PS, it's paper space, MS, model space. So a few ways of switching, and you need to be able to do that because if you notice here, I'm in paper space, so when I zoom, it's going to zoom the whole page. If I go into model space, and then I do the same thing, just zooming by rolling the wheel on my mouse, it zooms only inside that viewport. So what that's actually doing is scaling the view as well. So zooming and scaling are the same thing. They both set the size of what you're looking at. So by zooming, we are setting a scale, but it's of course not accurate. And do you have an idea what scale this plan should be, Quinton? Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's good. Yeah. If you're thinking 1 to 50, that's right. Because for interior design, 1 to 50 is almost the standard scale.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
How does it get chosen?
Oh, it depends on the size of the space or the drawing you're doing. But for interiors, you want to see a reasonable amount of detail as well. So 1 to 50 is used more than 1 to 100. But sometimes you've got to use 1 to 100. And for architectural drawings, 1 to 100 is more the standard, I suppose. So, yeah, so we've got that scale set roughly. That's pretty close to 1 to 50. But then if you go down to the scale option, you can then set it accurately. And that's basically the process. You tend to set it just roughly by zooming and panning. Panning is really important, so you can pan without changing the scale, and that's a really good way of moving things inside the viewport. Well, it's not moving them, it's moving the view. And again, when you click on the scale, and I'll choose 1 to 50, that then zooms accurately to set that scale precisely. So I've got my plan where I want it to be on the page or in my viewport. So then I'm going to double click outside the viewport again to go back to paper space, select the border, and then use the grips to make that the size I want it to be, and essentially crop my view and just show the parts that I want to see on the page. So I'll press escape now, and that'll deselect the viewport, and I can make a new one using that same rectangular button. Let's bring that over to the right and try and make it the same size. Don't get too fussy about the sizes of your viewports though, they're easy to adjust. And I'll double click now to go into this new viewport. So we have to do one extra thing here because I want to have that same plan, but I want to have different things showing. So I'm zooming again with the wheel on my mouse to get that positioned roughly. I'm then again going to set the scale just like I did before to 1 to 50. And I think I mentioned to you last week, you can line things up exactly, and I definitely would always do that in my own practice, but for now, panning You can line it up by eye, and that will be easily good enough. That's fine. So then the extra thing you need to do is freeze different layers in these two different viewports. So you can see there I've got the lights showing, and I've added those of course from the lighting legend. I might show you that afterwards. And I don't want that to show in this floor plan. So I'm just hovering over that light, and you can see then it shows me the layer that it's on. It's electrical. So I'm going to go to the Home tab, click on my list of layers, and then find that layer. Now you might be tempted just to turn it off, and that will hide it, but notice it's hiding it in the other viewport as well. Now you're going to think it's changed because we do want to hide it in both of the viewports, but I'm not going to turn it off that way. I'm not going to use the next one, the sun, which freezes it. I'm not going to use that either, because later we need to have a ceiling plan where those lights need to be visible. So I'm instead going to use this one, freeze in the current viewport. So notice the lights have just disappeared in the viewport on the right, so I now need to go to the one on the left and do the same thing. There is a way, but it's easier just like this, yeah. So, yeah, and then I'm also going to freeze the furniture in this viewport on the left. The floor hatching as well. Okay, so that way, I think I've shown you a little bit of that before, but basically you can have different floor plans and other drawings set up on your pages, all coming from the one drawing that you've done back in model space. So, back to paper space, and I'll just show you one last thing, and maybe I'll give you some time to try these things, and then we can continue on after that. And so now I just want to make sure that the viewport borders won't print. So maybe I'll just show you how to see what the print looks like on the main menu. Just go to Print Preview. So we can see there, it's a really good way actually of seeing things like the line weights and other things, the way they're actually going to print. But the main thing I wanted to see is that the viewport borders, of course, are going to print at the moment, and we don't want that. So I'm going to press Escape, and then just show you my layers. Okay, so you'll see there I've got this layer that I've made called Viewport, and I've set that to be non-printing. You might have noticed, if you've made a dimension, that you'll also have this layer called Def Points, which is one of those system layers that AutoCAD makes for you, and it's always non-printing. So if you ever just want to have a layer that you can quickly choose to make things not print, if you've got Def Points, you can use that. But it's probably easier and clearer if you make your own layer, just call it Viewport, and then over here just make sure you click on that option there to turn the printing off. So I tend to make it a nice bright colour so it stands out, and so then I'll just click on the edge of those viewports, go to the layer panel, and of course choose the viewport layer. So now if I go back to look at my print preview, or plot preview, plot just means print, and there we are, so we don't have the borders anymore. Could have hidden them as well, but if you hide them, then you can't select them to work on them. So it's usually easier just to leave them visible, but again, set them to be non-printing. So the very last thing I'll just show you there is how to now put some things onto the page. Instead of doing them back in model space or in the model tab, I want to actually draw things on this page layout. Things like the title blocks. So I know in the exercise they tell you in the instructions that there's a title block that you can choose from the folder you've been using. But I'm just going to show you one that I've made that maybe you could use instead if you want to. So on the Insert tab, if you go to More Options and then hit Browse, it's on the P drive, Interior Design, AutoCAD Library, and then 2019 blocks. So here it is, CCTV03. Double click. And actually, I'm even going to turn that option off for insertion point. So I've turned off all the tick boxes because I'm happy for this to go at 0, 0. I've set it up so that it goes, the insertion point goes onto that corner there, and then the title block should go in the right place. So I'll click OK. And I've already done this, so it's just asking me to move it. Fine, it's fine. Okay, so I've made this title block so it's got adjustable fields. So I might just change one of them, the drawing name. I'll just call that Hotel Floor Plans. And I'll leave the rest for now. Just going to click OK. And you can see it goes in bottom right corner. Okay, so, oh yeah, I'll just show you if you want to change that. So, of course, I didn't put the date in. So, you can always just double click on a block like this. And then it comes up with those same fields. And you can just click on them and type in what you want. There we go. And of course goes in there. Maybe better to show you the north point as well, because that'll be the last thing to finish it off. So again, insert, more options, browse, and in the same folder you'll see there's a north point that I've made that's probably a bit nicer than the other one. CC north point. And here I'm going to tick insertion point again, because I want to choose where it goes. Okay, and then again I've done it before, so I'll just hit redefine, and I'm just going to click to place that next to the title block. And there we are. So to finish it off, have a look at the print preview. Okay, so there's still a little bit more that needs to be added to the drawing, of course, but you can easily set up your page layout before you've finished all of your drawing. And it's a really good process to get used to, setting up your page layouts well before you finish. Because the whole reason you're doing drawings is, of course, to get the printouts. And so it can actually give you a good idea what you need to go back and work on once you've set up your pages. So what I'm going to encourage everyone to do today, not for assessment, just for your own use, is to print out your drawings. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm just going to go and plot. Under print and choose plot. And then this annoying message, it's just trying to force you to use batch plotting. And batch plotting is brilliant, but you don't need it here. So if you see this message, just hit the bottom option, continue to plot a single sheet. And I've got the page set up already done with the PDF printer. So I'm going to then choose one of our real printers. The laser printers are always the ones that have PL in the name at the end there. Do you know what the one at the top is? It's got PI. Oh, maybe you have to use them. It's on the printers over there. So yeah, it's got DC, PI, 001, E106, the big plotters. So all of the plotters have PI, which unfortunately looks like an L, but they're different. So just watch out for that, because if you send, especially if you send like 30 A4 pages to a plotter, it's not good. But it's fine, of course, on the laser printers. So the laser printers, again, are always PL. And again, in this room, it's PL E01, E106. Black and white or colour, doesn't matter here. And that's it, so I'll hit OK. And then we should see it print out in a second. There we are. And that's the best way of getting a really good idea of your line weights, and probably make it a lot clearer to you how important having the right line weights and the right symbols and everything else for your drawings. You can get a pretty good idea on the screen, but it's definitely a lot better on a print. So that's probably enough for now, and then maybe I'll come back to you afterwards and go over setting up the elevations, and then going beyond that, getting all of your exercises. So all of those previous exercises can be brought into this file, and then you can set up all your page layouts in the one file. It's much easier than trying to go back to each of those separate files and set this all up, 5 times, which is what you'd have to do if you do it in each separate file. So I'll show that afterwards, but it's basically copy and paste.
And you're still able to work on stuff that you haven't finished.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, that's right, yeah, that's it. say unless you've got any questions. Oh, yep. No, you don't. Yep. Yep. Awesome. Great.